And we are back here on Business Casual. My name is Nav Nanwa. I am your host. We are going to be talking about local brain drain prevention. And that's a topic that's been coming up a lot when you look at the region of Peel as well as the municipalities of Mississauga and Brampton. A lot of talk around how these cities and how the region as a whole can really foster local business to keep human capital in this particular area. And joining me to talk about this, I have from our previous segment from Incubate Institute, Rohit Mehta, as well as joining him is I have from Startup Weekend Peel, Sravanti Mundunuri, as well as designer and somebody who's actually in the past has worked at the Ryerson DMZ, Ahmed Saleh. Thank you everyone for joining me to talk about this wonderful topic. You know, all three of you are very involved here in the Peel region community, in particular within Brampton, which I thought this was a very relevant topic for all three of you to chime in on. And I just want to start from the get-go is, do you feel like Brampton, Mississauga, the region of Peel, is currently having a tough time maintaining the human capital that's staying within this area? And Rohit, will begin with you.
Sure. So Nav, I think that the brain drain has been happening for some time. And growing up, a lot of us heard about this, that, folks are going to the US. Why is all of our talent going to the US? And more recently, it's actually been folks are going to Toronto, right? Because Toronto is where everything happens and so on and so forth. But it's not true. And what I've seen over the past few years, especially within the nonprofit and social service sector, is that we're having agencies starting up that do good, take care of our people here, and then at the same time, business has also done the same thing. So that's what I've seen.
Excellent. Sravanti.
Yeah, I think there is a bit of brain drain. Like most of the university students, they usually go to San Francisco to start working with the startups, or like you mentioned, they go to Toronto to work with the startups because that's the new thing, to work with startups, and it's become mainstream to be working with startups rather than working in large organizations. But also in the region of Peel, we don't have as many large organizations, so perhaps if we had more organizations just within the region of Peel, then we would have less brain drain as well.
Ahmed, being that you were involved with the Ryerson DMZ and just that incubator that's actually located within the university, within Ryerson University, that's based in Toronto. So you being a Brampton resident going to Toronto and utilizing these resources, was that maybe a prime example of the brain drain taking place?
Definitely, of course. As an employee, definitely. I live in Brampton, but I work in Toronto, and I was a recipient of a Toronto incubator. So my company, Sampler, was inside the DMZ, and they offered physical space, networking events, connections, and workshops, which is, from an employee perspective, is sometimes beneficial and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, no, it's very intriguing when you think about it that way. And one thing I do want to touch on is, again, I mentioned all three of you are very much involved in the community. Whether it's Incubate Institute, Startup Weekend Peel, or some of the awesome initiatives that you're working on, Ahmed. The fact that you were maybe noticing this taking place, was that sort of a prime motive to really kind of go out there and put yourselves in a position to sort of keep some of the human capital in, per se? And Ahmed, will begin with you.
Yeah, I think it starts culturally. All Bramptonians are ashamed and kind of not proud to put their city on the map, to be proud that we're doing projects in Brampton. You see people like Roy Woods, Alicia Carr, Russell Peters, a lot of celebrities, basketball players, producers that come out of Brampton and never have a point of return or come back because there's nothing for them here. So I think it starts culturally, psychologically, having a pride that, yes, dope things come out of this city.
Yeah, exactly. Sravanti, what's your thoughts? Organizing a massive competition in Startup Weekend Peel, was your motive to really foster a lot of business development within the community?
So my intention, I don't think, started with fostering the business environment. It was more so that I felt in Brampton I didn't have a place to get involved after I was done in university. Because when I was in university, I had these extracurricular activities going on, which I could get involved with, but once I was done, it was just work. And I didn't want it to be just work. I wanted to get involved with the community. And that's really how that came about. And I started going to Lab B, and we discussed, hosting an event for the community. And we heard Startup Weekend happening in Toronto, but nothing like that really happening in the Peel area as well. So that's really how it started.
Yeah, Rohit.
Great. Yeah, I would just add that with Incubate Institute and the work we're doing to support grassroots community organizations and nonprofits, certainly we saw that really talented people who could actually address issues like poverty, food security, social issues, mental health issues, they were leaving. And it's because some of the best paying jobs and some of the best resources actually exist in Toronto. However, what we're seeing now is with groups like Seva Food Bank, and I'm a past employee of Seva Food Bank, a great organization, a number of young people came together and really said, you know what, we need to address a gap within our community. There is hunger going on, and we need to fix it. They spent some time, they learned from the Mississauga Food Bank how to do that, and they addressed the gap. And today the organization, I think it's just about to celebrate an upcoming milestone, a birthday. You know, they did it. They addressed hunger within Cooksville, and then they moved to Malton as well with 2 sites. And you know, that's a prime example of how you can really address an issue in your community, and by staying in your community and applying your skills and talents, the brain drain doesn't happen, and the brains actually end up staying and making a difference.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I want to harken back to something Ahmed you mentioned earlier around, people, we see a lot of celebrities, a lot of musicians coming out of the city of Brampton as an example, and really excelling, but never have that point of return back to where they started. What are some of the stigmas, if any, exist across the region of Peel? Not just picking on Brampton, but just looking at it as a total in totality, that sort of maybe prevent an entrepreneur per se to really want to start their business here.
I think the primary stigma is that the GTA is seen as Toronto's backyard.
Yeah.
Plethora of people that just live here, and they don't work here and they don't play here. And I think moving from a live mindset, we need to shift towards a work and play mindset. And I think starting there, we can think about incubation, we can think about investments and startups. But if the GTA is seen and expressed as a place to simply live and not work and play, I think we have a big problem we need to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. When we come back from commercial break, I actually want to talk a bit more about incubators as well as your experience at the Ryerson DMZ, and as well as maybe touch on maybe some of the cities in Canada or across the world that you think are actually doing a great job in preventing brain drain from taking place. We'll be right back here on Business Casual.